I'm Scott Allen Miller. It's the 24th of December, 2023. This is my vlog of daily life living in Leon, Nicaragua. It's Christmas Eve, or as it works here in Nicaragua, it is Christmas. This is the day that they actually celebrate, even though they still recognize the 25th as being the day known as Christmas. The 24th is the actual celebration. And in many ways, that's like New Year's Eve in the United States. We know that New Year's is the 1st, but the party is on the 31st. And here, it's very much the same. Christmas Day is a day to just go to the beach and party with your friends. You don't really do the big, quiet family thing like you do in the United States. And on the 24th is when you actually get together with your family, still have big dinner, big events, and go really late at night, drinking like crazy, shooting off fireworks and stuff. So that is today. It is a big day here for Nicaraguans. It is a party night, but we are having a quiet North American evening here at the house, and we're going to get to that and more right after the bump. We're trying to have a low-key stay-at-home Christmas this year, but we have a lot of friends that we want to be able to see and spend the holidays with. And so today and tomorrow, we're having holiday events here at the house. Now, Marcella and her kids were here yesterday on the 23rd, and they're going to be here tomorrow on the 25th. But today, they are celebrating her mother's birthday and the actual Christmas holiday with the family in Managua. So we'll see them some tomorrow. We're having a relatively quiet day, mostly with me doing game setup and present wrapping and stuff like that with Dominica. I mean, she does more wrapping than I do, but I was engaged in those kinds of things, getting things ready for tomorrow. And we're doing it a little bit secretly because my kids haven't figured out that they're actually getting anything yet. We haven't really hid this from them. Like, I went obviously shopping just yesterday and got lots of stuff. And we have a room full of presents being wrapped, and a lot of it's smaller items. They've already opened them by the time I'm recording this, so there's no surprises, but they got like stuffed animals and some little plastic pop head collectibles for anime and movies that they like, those kinds of things. Not a lot of really big items, because our big item is taking them to Disney World coming up in March. And they are getting from their grandparents primarily a MetaQuest 3 VR headset. Now, for those who just know, we're a big video gaming family. We're always into video games. We have been on VR for quite some time. A long time ago, my buddy Sean brought over, when he used to work for Samsung, he brought one of the Samsung phone Intuit headsets, and they tried it out and they really liked it. So we bought the Oculus Go when that first came out, which is the really small, light starter one from many years ago. And the girls really liked it. There's only a game or two on it, but it gave us enough to play around with it and decide that we enjoy having it and we would use it. And we still have that Go here somewhere in the house. I really need to set it up and update it, because it would be cool to at least watch my 360 videos on Nicaragua 360. For those who haven't checked it out, go check out that channel. We do just scenes of Nicaragua in 360 degrees, but if you have a VR headset, you can actually look around. It tracks your head. It's like you're there. And I haven't actually done that yet with my own footage. I've done it with other people's. I'd really like to see what it looks like. It should be really interesting. It's just funny that I've never done that. I need to hook it up to YouTube and give it a try, because I haven't put that headset on in years. Anyway, that one was very successful. This one bug wants to climb on my neck. And so they like that. And then we got back in, I want to say 2018, a really large gaming rig for them, specifically so that it could drive the Oculus Rift S, which was the 3rd generation of the Oculus Rift system. I believe it was 3rd, where you had to have a big computer and a good graphics card, and it was very complicated. And they used that for a number of years and have a lot of games for it, and it's much better than the Go, and you've got it's very high end, very good, and they proved that they really used it. Since moving here, they used it a little bit, and then we had some problems with the computer, and they haven't been able to use it since. And when trying to hook it up, we find that it constantly causes problems with our other gaming. It's not a dedicated VR system, and so the switching back and forth causes a lot of issues because it changes graphics drivers and sound drivers and just really messes up the normal gaming experience. And there's a lot of wires and stuff, and a lot of the new stuff that's happening with VR doesn't work that way. They use contained systems, which have proven to be a little bit more approachable by the general audience. And so we decided that the real fix that they need to have is moving to the modern Meta Quest system, where you don't have any wires, everything's wireless, it charges up, it's got built-in computer, you don't have to worry about compatibility. It's kind of like moving to a game console before VR, which makes a bit more sense. And so that's what they're getting as like their big item this year. And that's going to make things much easier. It's not going to, we can have one girl can play VR, the other can be on the game machine in the gaming room. They can go anywhere with it. They can use it in a bedroom. They can move around because it's, and it's augmented reality and it has built-in games. Like, it just so much more flexibility. I think it's going to be really good for them. And so that's, they've gone too long without it because of the complications with the system. And while trying to set it up, Paul was unable to get it working anymore because Facebook has broken the accounts for it. I'm sure there's some way to do it, but the systems that used to work are no longer there. They're acting like they remote killed the headset. Guarantee that didn't happen, but that's what it's behaving like. And he was actually convinced that they had done that. And I'm sure they haven't, but I have no idea how to make it work. But it's so complicated and so continuously complicated, and so just poorly engineered from a interfacing with your normal computer way. We're just moving on from it. That was our quick story about all of that. So we did a lot of that stuff this morning, and Domenico's really busy doing a lot of food because she's baking cookies and stuff for Christmas, like the whole Christmas tradition stuff. But then everyone's coming for dinner today, so she's making a seitan-based fake ham, plus Paul's cooking a real ham, plus all the sides and everything for the dinner tonight. Tomorrow, she'll be making lasagna. So there's just a lot going on. This afternoon, we had friends come over and hang out. We had a pretty quiet evening. And one of the things that the girls like to do that they've always done back home with their cousins, I've mentioned this a few times, and we showed this 2 years ago when we stayed here, is they like doing gingerbread houses. That's part of their Christmas tradition, which is funny for me because I never did this as a kid. I, of course, was aware of it. We never did it. And here, well, growing up, my kids have always done gingerbread houses with their cousins. They do like a little competition. We don't like actually do a competition, but they all sit there and try to compare them. And so we have all this gingerbread and all this icing and candy that they eat during Christmas because they made that. And here we had friends come up, and Aiden did it with them, and Chris, who's older, did it with them. He's never done this before. So Paul and Dominica actually baked all the gingerbread. This is homemade gingerbread, which is way better than store-bought. Like, it's actually pretty good to eat, and had to make royal icing here and do everything from scratch, but that makes for a much higher quality thing. So they went out and sat up on the table and made gingerbread houses, which is really cool. And it's great that they're able to do that tradition here and carry it on. And it's something that we asked them about it. They're like, no, we really want to do this. It's an important thing for us. And we're like, wow, what a weird thing. It never occurred to us 4 years ago that this would be something that they would really associate with Christmas, that they felt they had to do to have Christmas. And so we have a Christmas tree this year, obviously, and we did the gingerbread houses and that kind of stuff. So we've worked to recreate some of the things that they really like. So they had a good time doing that. And Chris was definitely like, what a bizarre tradition. He was really amazed by the whole thing, that this is something that people actually do. But it worked out. It was cool and fun. So our evening tonight, everyone's still feeling pretty under the weather, so getting to bed on the early side is important. So we had a relatively short day and went to bed on the early side because the girls are sick, and we want to make sure that they're getting sleep. And obviously tomorrow is going to be a very busy day, and there's a lot of potential for just being sick on Christmas. So we want to avoid that as much as we're possibly able to. So that was our Christmas. We had a really nice lead up to the holiday. Tomorrow we'll actually celebrate, open presents in the morning and all that, and then we have another Christmas dinner going on tomorrow. So we're kind of mixing traditions. We have this very Nicaraguan get together with friends thing, but we're keeping the American like Christmas morning tradition and keeping a quiet Christmas Eve and doing the gifts kind of in between, and the gingerbread and that kind of stuff from the United States. So we're kind of creating our own little way to handle things here in Nicaragua. And So that was our setup for the holiday, and this is our second time doing Christmas here, which it is nice being so quiet. Like, that part is pretty cool, but of course we're missing all the family back home, so we really wish like they could come here and kind of combine the best of both worlds. This year we just had no way to go north, and it's very good that we had not planned on it, because we have this upcoming trip that we have to do in March, and that is going to cause some very tight scheduling with our time that we can be in the United States. So we're working on putting all that together. We're going to be booking those flights in the next couple days. We just have so much going on. It's pretty crazy. But it's the holiday season, and being busy is just part and parcel with Christmas. We're going to keep our topic short for the day because it's the holidays and a lot of different people are watching and so forth. So today I just had this one comment. It's been sitting in my bin for a little bit that I need to go through. I keep like a little bin of screenshots of comments that people have made that are worth commenting on. I do want to comment really quickly. When I started the channel, or really got busy with it about 2 years ago, we had quite a few comments that were being filtered by YouTube as inappropriate. In many cases, it was as simple as people looking for email addresses or trying to provide inappropriate information like a phone number or an email, and YouTube's instantly going to ban those. So some of those, there's, it's nothing, no one's acting badly and getting banned. It's just material you're not allowed to post, mostly to protect yourself. They don't want you to get spammed with a whole bunch of phone calls or emails from someone trying to scam you or just people trying to sell you things because you posted on YouTube. So in some cases, that's what we had. But we did have a lot of questionable comments, and YouTube would filter a lot of them out in the past. And while that still happens, the rate of it has gone way down, which is quite a testament to the quality and friendliness of our community here, that we get so few nasty comments. And many of those are just bots anyway. It's not even real humans. So it's really nice to know that the vast majority of the comments that we get past the filters don't get flagged by anything, and really are people being helpful or asking legitimate questions, or just being friendly and saying hi, or being supportive of each other in the channel, or whatever. YouTube does look for things that are illegal or harassment or whatever and blocks them. And in some cases it's like, well, we blocked it, but we're going to let you see it and let you maybe approve it against our better judgment. And just today I had one, I have no idea why it was blocked. It was something really simple like, oh, what if you went on a different day of the week, or something like or how much was your camera? I think that's what it was. It's like such a random question. Why did that get blocked? But normally they are things that you don't want to release. And then there's a bunch that are really nasty that they never show to you at all. So in many cases, if you ever hear someone say, you deleted my comment, you didn't, I essentially never delete comments. Like, I have deleted maybe 2 or 3 in total in years. I never have to because YouTube picks them up. So if someone says that, you can safely assume they're admitting that they were providing a breaks community policy or breaks YouTube posting policy, and were auto banned for that reason. And I do know I've had people who posted over and over and over again and kept putting phone numbers in, and they were YouTubers. So I know they were doing that so that they could make the claim that they were getting deleted, because they were intentionally violating community policy to make sure it got deleted, so they could make the accusation that I was the one deleting them when I was not. But I did eventually figure out why their stuff was never being seen by me, because when they put it in an email, and I'm like, well, of course this was going to get deleted, and you're a bigger YouTuber than me, you definitely know that. Anyway, but in general, we've had such good community responses, and so I want to talk about this one today, just at random. This one, and the person said, and I can't tell the tone of this post. It could be very friendly, it could be very grumpy, it could be anything, right? You read into it as you want, but she made the comment, and this is on a video where we talked about solo travel. And boy, there's a lot. I don't know if you can hear it. There's so much traffic today because it's the holidays. There's just nonstop people going up and down the road behind me. And so she said, you can travel alone if you want to, but that sounds really boring and potentially dangerous depending on the country you go to. Both of things could be true, of course. But if you're really looking for, adventure, more power to you or whatever. And I think it's worth mentioning just a little bit, partially because we needed a topic for today and I wanted to keep it a lot simpler than an average day. But in this, the way that this was presented, I feel came across very much as that solo travel is a boring thing, and puts you at additional risk. And I don't think that's true for the most part. I mean, anytime that you're alone, you're at a certain amount of additional risk. It doesn't matter if you're just going to the grocery store or whatever. If you don't have people with you, you are more of a target because you don't have that extra pair of eyes, you don't have that extra pair of muscle, whatever. But in general, solo travel can be very safe, even in countries where people say, oh, it's dangerous there. There really aren't that many countries where it's actually dangerous to travel on your own. That's not a blanket statement that you should travel just anywhere. There are places that are dangerous, and there are cities that are dangerous, but it's rarely based on the country that you go to. Just like if you went to the United States, you can't give a statement as to how safe the United States is. Of course, we can produce a statistic that covers the entire country, but it's basically meaningless. Where you go in the country makes makes all of the difference. And what you do there makes all the difference. If you go camping in a small town in Iowa, chances are you're going to be incredibly safe. You could do some really stupid things, be very reckless, and still end up safe. Whereas you could go to the south side of Chicago, do everything you can to stay safe, be in a big group of a lot of people, and still be in quite a bit of danger. It all depends where you go, and to some degree what you do, but where you go makes the bigger difference, but not where you go as a country, where you go within that country, or really even within a city or neighborhood. You definitely shouldn't approach solo travel as something to be fearful of. That's not really how it works. You can travel very safely alone all over the world, and people do all the time. We live here in the middle of the Central American backpacking trail, and we're in one of the most dangerous regions in the world on average, when you consider places like Honduras and Guatemala, Belize, Costa Rica. In this zone, yes, there's a couple really safe places, El Salvador and Nicaragua, but most of the region is relatively dangerous, and people backpack alone through this region non-stop. It's one of the most popular regions for doing this, and the number of times you hear horror stories or hear of horror stories or statistically encounter terrible things happening to those solo travelers is incredibly rare, maybe more common than in a safer location like Western Europe, of course, but the incidence of problems still remains outrageously low. The dangers in almost anywhere in the world do not actually consider travelers versus the regular population. Most violent crime, most things that people are afraid of, happen not to travelers. And so it can be a misleading concern, because it may be that there is danger, but it doesn't apply to you. And if it doesn't apply to you, you shouldn't be afraid of it. A well-known example of this that applies to this region in particular is the incredible violence in homicide and violent crime rates in Honduras and Guatemala. These are pretty well known. If you don't know, look up any statistics on the region and you'll see what I mean. They're no longer the absolute most dangerous countries in the world, but they're up there for sure. And they're going to remain up there for some time. They're doing what they can to clean it up, and their actions are mostly being productive. They have models in the region that have worked really well. We can talk about that at length at some time in the future, but in those regions, so I have traveled to both of those countries, and there is a palpable sense of additional concern compared to some of the other countries in the region. For sure, that goes without saying, but it is also true that you can go to large areas of those countries, places that you would want to travel to, beautiful tourist destinations, places that people would never think twice about going to, yet you're in a country with a really high crime rate. Who is that crime happening to? Well, mostly it is gang-related crime, and gang-related crime has a very high chance of that the people who are being killed or, are victims of violent crime are other gang members. And while that remains also awful, and we don't want death for anybody necessarily, when you have two gangs that are fighting each other and not affecting the rest of the people, which I understand is not always possible, but when the homicide rates are purely between gangs killing each other, it's important to keep that in mind, that you may see, we have a 15 or 20 people per 100,000 homicide rate per year. That sounds really awful compared to, say, the United States, which I think has fallen like crazy to something like 4 to maybe 5 this year. They've had a really good year, 13% drop. The largest drop in homicide rates in history has been the United States this year, in American history. Other countries may have a higher drop at some point, but this is the highest drop ever for the U.S., so kudos to the U.S. for an amazing job on reducing homicides this year. 13% is unprecedented. If you're looking at, say, just for example, a 5 out of 100,000 in the U.S., you may say 4 times more. That's really scary. But in the U.S., that 5 out of 100,000 may be spread relatively equally throughout the population, or at least as homicides are always skewed quite a bit, but as spread as it's going to be. Whereas in Honduras, for example, that crime is going to be nearly all gang-to-gang violence, and the average person, especially the average tourist, may have a nearly identical safety rate in Honduras as in the United States. And so who you are demographically, while it's unfortunate for the people of Honduras that they may not fall into the same safety category that you do, it shouldn't make you feel fearful about travel if you're in a demographic that isn't affected by that crime. And in this case, demographic meaning a foreign traveler who is simply a tourist going to tourist areas. If you want to explore gang land and get into the seedy underbelly of society, you're going to be at risk. But if you want to go in Guatemala to Lake Atitlan or to Quetzaltenango to check out the beautiful plazas, or into Guatemala City to go to the fancy restaurants, you're going to be probably safer than most places that you would not have any concern about under normal circumstances. So it's all about a little bit of perspective there. The country that you're going to does not necessarily make it dangerous, and there's almost nowhere in the world that you can't travel safely as long as you know basically what you're doing and where you're going. But the bigger thing to address is boredom. I found this very surprising, and I guess I understand where this feeling could come from, and if you're an introvert, maybe this would be more dramatic, but as someone who has done solo travel and found it incredibly rewarding and anything but boring, and I've done it multiple times and sometimes for long periods of time, never even as short as a week, I'm always going for longer. I find it very relaxing and a great opportunity to go out and meet other people. And often when I'm traveling in groups, I sometimes find that much more isolating because I feel I have to interact with those groups all the time, which can be exhausting, and you end up trying to spend time to get away from each other. When I traveled in 2019 with my wife and my nieces, it does get difficult when you have a group of people who are stuck together all the time, especially if you don't have a ton of shared interest. So we would spend a lot of the day just trudging around locations together, and it wears you down to some degree, and you're really like, ooh, what can I do to get some isolation? When traveling alone, you have as much isolation as you want, and you can simply do things like often you'll stay in a hostel, and this is a popular choice for solo travelers, not because you do a dorm room. Remember, hostels can mean very nice individual rooms as well. For example, Selena in Granada here in Nicaragua has beautiful individual rooms at affordable prices, much higher scale than what people think of as a hostel, but it's still a hostel. And you could go there, and all you do is go down to the lobby, and there's events you can participate in, people sitting at the bar you can hang out with, and it's easy to walk outside, go to a cafe, go places, and meeting people when you're traveling alone is generally, not 100% of the time, but generally really easy. And so as a solo traveler, it can actually be one of the more adventurous and exciting ways to travel because it makes it so easy to just find people with shared interests, discover new people, discover new activities, go out and do things that maybe you're willing to take adventure and risk on, whereas other people in your group may not. When we were in Greece in 2019, my wife did not want to go adventuring onto remote beaches that required climbing down a hillside, but my nieces did. So the three of us went and did that and had a really good, interesting time. One of our most exciting days and filming opportunities was done when we did that. If you have a group where you're trying to stay together, then you have to go with the lowest common denominator of what everyone is willing to do, and that can take a lot of the adventure out of an equation. If you're traveling on your own, you want to see a quirky museum, go to a scary location, something that other people aren't going to jump on, you just want to go volcano boarding, then you can do so without worrying about what is going to stay comfortable for everyone else. So you may get a whole new level of adventure you never thought of before. So in some cases, for exactly the reasons that people may be worried about doing solo travel, may be the reasons you want to do it. You want an opportunity to meet more people and be an extrovert extraordinaire, do exciting things and find new adventure, go to more exciting places, and maybe go with groups of people you would never have gone with if you went with just a friend or a group of friends. Try going solo. It actually can be the more social experience. Of course, some of that depends on you, and some of it is chance, but those chances often don't exist if you go in a group. Now, don't get me wrong. I love traveling with friends. That gives me an opportunity to hang out with someone that I'm friends with, and we get a one-on-one time or whatever, and that can be really rewarding and valuable, of course. So it's not that that's a thing to avoid. But if you have the opportunity to travel on your own, no one wants to go with you, you want to go to a place that no one else wants to go, I don't think you should generally worry too much about safety. Certainly evaluate it, don't be reckless, but don't just assume that solo travel, especially to a country with a bad reputation, alone is going to be a cause for concern with your safety. And if you're worried about being bored, chances are traveling alone is going to be anything but boring. It may be a little bit stressful at times. You're on your own. You have no fallback plan in the way that other people do. No one's there to carry my luggage. No one's there to look for a hotel while I look for a taxi. Like, you can't do things in parallel like you could in a group. But you also have so much more flexibility. And when you go to the bar and you don't have someone with you, the ease of just talking to another traveler or to a local is so much higher than when you're in a group and you're going to be talking to each other. That's hard to really overstate the amount that bringing a group of friends with you or family members with you creates this insular environment, not intentionally, and people don't avoid you because of that, and you don't avoid other people because of that, but you're not easily approachable because you're hanging out with your family or friends, and you're not looking to meet other people because you have people to talk to. It creates a situation where you actually end up meeting and being so much less social with so many fewer people that I think evaluating solo travel as an opportunity to be anything but bored, to be less bored than ever before, is something worth trying. At least consider the possibility that it might be the way it works out for you. Thanks for joining me. Like and subscribe. If you'd like to help support the channel, you can buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Scott Allen Miller. As always, like and subscribe. Tell your friends about the show. Post on social media, and I will see all of you tomorrow.